Today I'm going to talk about the different types of bow sights that are on the market, primarily fixed pin versus sliders. Now, sliders come in multi-pin and single pin varieties. We're going to talk about it all right now. Your classic bow sight, the one that's going to come on standard on a lot of the beginner kits and whatnot, and generally the cheaper option is going to be your fixed pin bow sight. Basically, this is going to mount onto your bow. It's going to have any number of pins, really, usually from 3 to 7, but you can have any number of pins you want on it. Each pin is responsible for a different yardage and it is completely fixed. Once you sight in each pin, this doesn't move. It's simply a fixture on your bow and you don't want it to ever move. That's the point. It's simple, it's bulletproof, these work, and I use these for a lot of years. This was actually the sight that was on my bow for 2 or 3 years until this year I switched to a slider, but I'm going to talk about that. So this was mine. A real short frame, 7-pin fixed, so I could get from 20 to 80 all in one sight housing. It's really nice for ranging and shooting. There's no in-between step. It's fast, it's effective. Now, what some people don't like about this system is when you're shooting in between ranges. So if I'm shooting 67 yards, for example, I have to pretend where 67 would be between my 60 and 70 yard pin. With practice, it's just as accurate really as shooting with a pin, but some people just don't like it. The other reason you see people shy away from these sometimes is 7 pins or even 5 pins can really block what you're looking at. There's a lot of archers out there who don't have amazing eyesight and sometimes can't see the target behind all the pins, so that's where your single pin option comes into play. Now, I don't have a single pin here because I haven't shot one in a lot of years, but I'm going to break down what they are and how they work and why they might be for you. So a single pin bow sight, which is very much like what I have here, is going to have a slider. So this is my 5-pin slider. It's brand new on my bow this year. But basically how it works is I have yardage markers on this knob. I will twist that knob until I dial in the exact range I'm trying to shoot. So this is obviously a 5-pin slider, but a single pin slider would just be 1 pin. You can see how much movement that has, right? It's a huge range. So benefits of a single pin are you have a perfectly clear sight picture. There's only 1 pin. They are super accurate because there's just nothing in the way of your target, and any shot you take, you can dial it in to that perfect range. So why isn't everybody shooting single pins? Well, it's the reason people shoot fixed pins. When you're at 24 or 32 yards on an animal, for example, you're in close, you often don't have time to range, dial, and then shoot. By the time you've dialed, sometimes the animal will have moved. So that's the reason a lot of people tend to shy away from the single pins. So what I put on my bow this year is the hybrid. It's the best of both worlds. So this is from Spot Hog. It is a 5-pin slider. It functions just like a fixed pin bow sight. The first ones we talked about, 20 to 60, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 yards. Beyond 60, I can get this out to probably, I haven't tested it yet, but 120, 130 yards, I'm gonna say. My bottom pin becomes the floater. So if I wanna shoot 83 yards, I flick the switch here, which allows me to make the adjustment, and I will dial it until it's at, my little arrow indicator here is at 83. And then my bottom pin is a perfect, exact 83 yard pin. The thing to keep in mind here is once you dial your sight, now all your other pins are to be ignored. They're negligible. If you want to shoot 20 yards, you have to reset your sight back to home. Otherwise, you're going to miss or wound an animal. And that happens a lot. So that's something you have to be really careful about with these sights, is make sure you know when it's in the home position or when it's not. So that's my quick breakdown on the different types of bow sights. They all have a place and they all have some pros and cons. At this point, my favorite is really leaning towards the 5-pin hybrid. If I could think of a con, it's that it's a little bit bulky. Now this is pretty well the least bulky option on the market, but I like a really small frame bow sight. So my old one would be about like that. So you're, 2-3 inches longer and bulkier and a little bit heavier. And that's just necessary to have the components and the gears that make this sight what it is. Whereas this is quite a simple piece of aluminum. So if there's a downside, that's really the only one. I'm a really big fan of this sight so far, but we'll see what I think after a full hunting season. Thank you guys for watching.